It's been really fun actually, like having these friends who are huge in horror, like so talented, so good at what they do, and not having a ton of gaming experience. Like Mike definitely has played some games, but not a ton. So I get to be like, oh, let me
Have
show you the
you?
dark side of
Yeah.
horror video games.
Nerd Reactor, roll out.
VHS Beyond, and so
If you
you're.
want.
I guess so. Yeah, because you're doing everything. I don't even know how you do it. Like the acting, the writing, um, everything under the sun you're doing, and I don't even know how you navigate that. You have like an assistant. You have like how is your calendar?
I'd love to have an assistant. No, I just I keep saying this. I know it's really cheesy, but I feel like it's my reason for being alive. Is I really just like making creative stuff with creative people who are all way smarter than me. It's just so consistently inspiring, and getting to work on VHS Beyond, obviously with incredibly talented actress Kate Siegel, genius Mike Flanagan. It's just you get the energy from the creative people that you get to work with, and I love it, and I feel like especially stubborn about it now that AI is trying to come for any of this, and like I want to keep working with creative people on creative stuff. It is
Oh yeah.
invigorating in and of itself.
And yeah, because okay, I'm a fan of the Haunting of Hill House. Mike Flanagan, Kate doing all that stuff, and then you're on the other side, the other spectrum. So I was like, How does that converge? Like, what happened, and what was that like?
So the short answer is that we're friends. I've been friends with Mike and Kate for a few years. We have movie nights at their place. Mike calls their home theater the Flanaplex. So we go and watch movies all the time. He's shown me like some fantastic films that I had never seen before because being a huge gamer, I feel like the repertoire of movies that I've seen has not caught up. So most recently he showed me Shawshank Redemption.
Ooh,
Great movie. Turns out who'd
yeah.
have thought. Everyone was right. It's a really good film. He actually showed me my what is now my favorite horror movie too, Lake Mungo, which is Australian. It's incredible. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. But yeah, we've been friends for a really long time. I can't speak totally on behalf of Kate. You would have to ask her, but when she was presented with the opportunity to have her directorial debut, making effectively a short segment for VHS Beyond, um, she I think wanted to work with someone she knew, which is just a reality of a lot of indie filmmaking or filmmaking in general. I mean, it's fun to make stuff with your friends is the truth there, I think. And especially when it's indie, people aren't doing it for money, they're doing it for love or passion. And it's more comfortable if you're working with people you know. But the reality is that while I do have some acting experience, I was one of the only non-union actors that Kate knew, and it was a non-union project. So it was worked out very well. And that the character that I play, Haley, is acting as a reporter. I used to be a journalist, so it was a really natural, pretty easy role for me to fall into. So it's like the stars align. And at the end of the day, I got the experience of working with Kate on her first time directing, which was genuinely incredible. She was so wonderful to work with, and but I still had the experience of it feeling like I was hanging out with a friend the whole shoot, which was the best. Like it was just such a fun time.
Oh yeah, and the short, it's mysterious and something dealing with aliens, and I don't even know how much we can talk about it without spoiling things,
I'm trying to be
because
careful.
you know how it is, like on the other side of reporting, you're trying to get information, but now you're on the other side, and it's like, oh, I gotta withhold information. So,
Yeah, it's tough.
yeah. Well, yeah,
Yeah,
I guess we talk about the whole like the because VHS is horror, and I don't know if you experience the horror aspect, like being on set, like, oh, this is creepy, or you're like, oh, this is cool. Like I love the just the horrifying aspect of everything.
doesn't feel creepy on set at all. Not even a little bit. Because you're like you're like you're just in a room with a bunch of people, and so you're just like hanging out with a bunch of people who are like your sound guy's like, hang on, the sound's not working. Like it doesn't feel creepy at all in person. So it's an interesting thing for me to watch back and to get to talk to people about now because you can't look at something you've made with very much objectivity. It's really difficult to look at it and not go, oh, I remember that. That's how I was feeling on that day. Or like, oh, that's interesting. This is how it felt from my perspective. It's really difficult to like separate yourself from it. So I had no idea how people would respond to it. And I'm so happy to be reading so many positive reviews for the whole movie and not just my segment. People have been so positive and that's awesome to see. But yeah, for me, it was fun to make. None of it felt creepy at all. Um, it's all in camera, lighting tricks, direction, editing, and obviously the script, which even my first time reading the script, I was like, oh, this is creepy. How on earth are we going to make this? It's so creative. Hopefully we leave people with a sense of dread, and I feel like we accomplished that. But yeah, it's definitely nothing actually scary on set at all. It's very calm.
Yeah, and I love the VHS look and feel of it, and just adds to that just creepiness. And what was that your experience like? Because I think we have a kind of like a resurgence of just like the whole VHS vibe. There's a game, I forgot the name of it, but it's like the from Blumhouse. You probably know the name of it. The scary game that looks like it's like 8-bit, 16-bit, polygon, PlayStation 1.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, there have actually been like a lot of games that have done VHS type stuff, but like Outlast is
Yeah.
the one that most people reference. But then there's also Fatal Frame is probably like my favorite camera-based horror series. Uh, they were on, I think there's one on the Wii. I mean, it's a really long franchise. Where you like you have to like take photos of the ghosts to make them disappear. It's terrifying. It's awful. Like I highly
Yeah.
recommend it.
The
But
best
yeah,
best
we
concept, yeah.
yeah, it's super fun. We did shoot for it to look like VHS. It being VHS is also sort of an important part of the story. It's funny when I was showing it to my dad, which I just showed him a couple of days ago. He was like, "I don't understand the cuts. Why does it cut to the little girl?" And I was like, "Well, it's a VHS tape." So sometimes I was like, "Remember, Dad, when we used to record VHS, that sometimes the you could record things out of order?" And he was like, "Oh, I forgot about that." I was like, "Yeah." He just like forgot that VHS existed, which is such a funny thing. But yeah, there's some challenges in that, and like obviously in some parts of the movie, you're watching me hold a very old camera that Kate gave to me ahead of time to make sure I felt comfortable holding it. But then we're actually tricking it because it's actually cameraman Michael Famignari, who was actually our director of photography. We had several different people who were operating camera, but off to the side trying to cheat things to make it look like it's the camera I'm actually holding and not this giant, much more expensive camera. So a lot of that was really fun to figure out too. But I love the aesthetic. I think the VHS aesthetic is really fun and served us really well.
Oh yeah, and just being on set because it takes place like outside, but also inside too. I'm not gonna say what, but it's what was that like? Like, what was your favorite part of that? Like the being on the set, or just being in the outdoors and just kind of like being the journalist and going out there and interviewing people.
I actually didn't shoot the interviews, which is
Oh,
funny. So the interviews, I wasn't even there. I just did ADR for them beforehand. Kate was actually doing them because I was filming other stuff while they were being shot, which is so funny because it's like I knew what they were in the script, but I didn't actually see them while they were recording them. Just filmmaking so out of order, which is I found that it was fun to get to watch them back actually because I wasn't there. Um, I mean, we shot a lot of it in the desert at night, and there were some really cool things there. There was one particular shot that is the second monologue that I have to do, where Kate really wanted it to be like during golden hour, so it was like shot at sunset. So that because it's like a really particular time frame that we shot that in. So we were all just like waiting in the desert for the sun to look pretty, which was like such a beautiful way to spend an afternoon. And then like sit to the monologue because you only have a really small window to do that in. So, but I would say both were equally fun, but like very different. Like when you're in the desert, I'm finding all this wind and we're fighting natural lighting and we're fighting literal snakes. There were snakes out there. And then when you're on set, things are very technical. So you're having to you shot a lot of it with IR, which is like a like definitely a beast of its own. And there are a lot of like angles to make sure we're getting, variety from what was actually a very small set, and trying to make things, dynamic in a pretty small space. So both had totally different challenges and both were very fun in very different ways, except the snakes. That was
oh
not
yeah, and like because I'm watching you, I'm seeing you like the gaming background, but also this alien stuff, and I keep thinking like Alien Isolation. So it's
fun.
like,
Oh man, what a
yeah,
game. What a game.
yeah, yeah.
I think like I keep forcing Kate Siegel to play horror games. So I made her play PT, if you're familiar with that, which like I still
Yes,
think is like the best
yes.
horror game ever made. I made it. We did that on Twitch. It was really fun. With Sam Sloyan as well, who's also in a bunch of my Flanagan stuff too. So I've been making these people play more horror games, and we did. I made Kate do Dead Space, and I think I should do Alien Isolation next. I've been trying to decide between making them play Alien Isolation or Until Dawn, because I actually
Yeah.
thought like if I make Mike and Kate play Until Dawn with me, it would be really fun because it would just be me playing the game And like the all of the games that Supermassive makes are like you get to just like yell at the TV. It's like an interactive schlocky horror movie. I love them so much; they're so fun. So I'm like kind of like torn between which of the two of them I'm going to make Kate play next. And it's been really fun actually, like having these friends who are huge in horror, like so talented, so good at what they do, and not having a ton of gaming experience. Like Mike definitely has played some games, but not a ton. So I get to be like, oh, let me show you the dark side of horror video games.
Have you showed them the VR horror games? Just that, like, let's say Resident Evil in VR.
No, I should do that too. I was gonna make Kate play Five Nights at Freddy's VR as well. I think that'll be a really fun one because I think that their kids are, yeah. One of their kids is a huge Five Nights at Freddy's fan as well. So that's a good idea. Maybe I'll have to get them into VR next too. But it's definitely a thing that I'm like pushing on them more and more. More horror video games because it's so fun.
Yeah, and because there's an upcoming video game, Alien, something Alien, in VR. And so I'm looking forward to that. I don't know if you heard anything about it, but that
yeah. I think there's such a specific thing about horror games in VR too, where like survival horror is my favorite genre of video game. I love horror games, but something about VR because you have no personal space. Like you don't have the comfort of your living room at least blocking it out. Oh my God, it's so terrifying. I can't handle them for very long. It's just you feel like things are huge and they're right in front of you, and it's so hard to trick your brain into remembering that it's fake. It's just it's a whole other level. So I'm always down to do it, but I only do it in like small chunks because otherwise I'll like throw a controller or something. They are genuinely terrifying.
Okay. And now, okay, last question I want to ask you, just for let's say your character of Haley, right? Like if aside from alien investigation or something else out there, and if she were to be in another genre, what kind of genre would you want to see her in? Investigating what type of mystery?
I think Haley's whole thing is she's effectively a conspiracy theorist who really wants vindication, right? Like she really wants to prove that she's right, and she's kind of willing to throw everything away for it. And she is doubting herself where her own priorities are concerned and is very hyper aware of people's criticism of her. And I feel like that kind of leans into a lot of conspiracy theories where like you can dig your heels in. People lose family members sometimes because you're like so set on proving that the thing that you believe is right, just to prove everybody else wrong, even if it's not for your own like actually valuable information. So really it could be anything. Let's make her a flat earther. Why not? just go all out. Like have a fun one of those flat earth documentaries where they take like the level on a plane and they're like, see, it's level. Like there's
I'm not making it up.
yeah. I think that it's a really interesting trait in a person that like is a lot more relatable than I think we give it credit for where conspiracy theorists are concerned. It's like a lot of it is just trying to validate your existence in a lot of ways, which we all do in totally different ways. And there's also this really fun bit from comedian Ron Funches that I think about all the time, where he's like, I understand we make fun of conspiracy theorists, but you don't believe in any conspiracy theories? Because it's like, you think the government has been telling the truth about everything? I think he's like, you think they've been batting 100% of the time? I think about that all the time. I'm like, you're right. Statistically, at least one conspiracy theory has got to be correct. Like I'm not going to buy that the government is telling me the truth about everything all the time. That would be insane. And I feel like I always come back to that bit from Ron because it's so true. And yeah, it's something that, she's right at the end of the day. What Haley is doing, she is right about. It's just like, what was the cost of proving it? And I think that's part of what makes it such an interesting character story.
And also a good message too on just like the lengths you would go to and the sacrifices that you make. Yeah. And yeah. Alanah, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. And yeah, can't wait to just see just more, maybe like a just lead in a feature-length horror film.
Maybe one day. Yeah, that's awesome. But I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for talking to me.
All right. Thank you so much and take care.
Thank you.